What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure to click the subscribe button, like, comment, let us know what you think about the episode. If there's a particular guest or topic that you'd like to have covered, we're always checking comments on there. Love to hear from you guys and then be able to get your suggestions onto a future episode. Today I'm going to be chatting with Josh McCormick. You've heard him on the podcast before, talking about UCC and his YouTube channel, and he recently, or since we chatted last, has started his own diesel shop, and I wanted to catch up with him on that, how the first couple years in business have been for him, and then also jump into his UCC truck and kind of the final push to getting it ready for the competition. So it's going to be a great conversation. Before we get to it, though, I want to remind you guys that our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 20% off discount code for you. Use code 23diesel20 at kershaw.kaiusa.com. You get 20% off site-wide. We really appreciate them offering this code just for you guys. So if you're in the market for a knife, something for hunting, fishing, EDC, anything like that, they've definitely got something for you. Their newest model this year is the Duralock, which it's a really cool knife. I've got a few of them myself. And the blade's made out of D2 steel. The way that it opens and closes is super smooth, keeps your fingers away from the blade. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure to head on over to their website, check it out, and don't forget to use code 23diesel20 for 20% off site-wide. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Josh, talking with him about his business and also the final push to get his UCC truck ready to go. Josh, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you today at this kind of time and place with everything you've had going on with your shop, getting ready for UCC, your truck. I've always enjoyed our chats in the past, so I appreciate you taking time to chat with me this weekend, kind of running on a little sleep and a lot of stress and everything.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back on, Patrick. It's always a pleasure.
I mean, a lot has changed since the last time we chatted, and I wanted to spend a little time before we jump into the truck talking about your shop, your business, the big move that you made. Because I remember seeing it on social media, but I haven't chatted with you a lot since then. So I was curious, how's it been going? What's it been like?
It was definitely a big change. I moved like December of 2021. To Abingdon, Virginia. I started W.O.T Motorsports with David Petrick. He's like from this area. And yeah, we met basically through competition. First time I ever really hung out with him was KOS 2019. And I met him through Gordon Lindemood. And yeah, from there, we just kind of, David was one of the few guys that was willing to trash talk as much as I was. So that was very inviting, I guess you'd say. And 2020, we did KOS together. 2021, we did UCC together. And that's when I had an engine issue and he had a spare motor that he was willing to let me borrow. And then from there on, we just 21 KOS, we actually like shared a tent, and it just kind of turned into a really good friendship, and now we're partners in this. And what's the term? Blessed to be stressed, I guess. We every day I come in, there's stuff in the parking lot to be worked on. So we do a little bit of everything here. We have like currently in the shop, we got a LLY for head gaskets, and we're gonna do a 5-blade turbo. Bunch of HSP parts. We have another LBZ Dynomax in the shop. This one was kind of a weird story. The guy that owns it bought a built motor from somebody, and then somebody was supposed to put the truck back together, and he brought it to us with like the front clip off and like nothing hooked up. So we were working on that yesterday, and then we got obviously my truck here, and we have a customer that brought in a truck for a road trip inspection. And his transfer case had like almost a 1/4 inch of yoke play like in and out. So I got that torn down. We're waiting on parts for it. And then we have a 20, I think it's an 18 model Longhorn Laramie Longhorn that's going from an Aisin to a G56 swap. So we do just about anything. The only thing we really try to stay away from is like oil changes and fuel filters and stuff. It's just so hard to be like competitive and actually make it worth your while to do it. But yeah, we do about everything. We're working on the transmission program some more. I'm trying to add like 5Rs and A1000s to our build capabilities. Right now we do all the 47, 48 Dodge stuff in-house, and then 68s we usually install like a WP development products in there. I'd love to figure out the 68 more, but I mean, Ethan's such a good guy to do business with and such a good product. It's kind of hard to, like, I guess, cut them out in a way. So
Yeah.
I mean, learning how to work with other businesses, I think, has been, I don't want to say interesting, but it's definitely changed my perspective on certain things and like how you, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many other companies transmissions come through here, and it's like, you just fix them, you know, at the end of the day, like, you just let other people know, like, hey, this is what I found. But at the end of the day, most of the time when I get something else from another shop, it's like the customer is usually the one at fault. And you know how stuff can get twisted around real quick.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Is there anything, well, I'm sure there's been a lot of stuff that maybe you didn't anticipate, you know, starting a shop and doing it. Was there one thing that really jumps out, like, that you wish you would have known before you did it? Not that you wouldn't have made the same choice, but it just would have been helpful in the growing process.
That's a good one. I guess I just wish I would have thought more about. I think if I could do it over again, I think I would have charged people more in the beginning. I feel like I discounted myself or ourselves. Obviously, Dave works too, but I think that was the biggest thing I made a mistake on that we did, was we were too cheap in the beginning. And you found yourself just working a lot harder than you should have to get there. And now, I mean, obviously we don't want to be uncompetitive, but we've, you know, raised our rate to a point where we don't have to kill ourselves. And like our parking lot's probably got, I think, about 10 trucks in there now that we haven't even looked at yet. So, you know, it's a nice steady flow. And I'll be honest, I mean, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've gotten to talk to a lot of other business owners. And at my last job at PDD, I mean, I got to see a lot of the business side of stuff. So I was very fortunate in the fact that I started this, I'd say, maybe a little too late for my body, so to speak, but I got a lot of experience coming up through it. And then I'm the child of two parents that had very successful small businesses. So I had a really good support system. And I always learned a lot from other business owners in our industry, like especially PDD. Believe it or not, Loewen was very, some of the things that he has said about the way they built up Fire Punk, you know, just learning all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you see kind of how other businesses do stuff on like social media and stuff, and you just learn a lot. And I think a lot of it too is, you know, I think he's a little older than me by a couple of years, but I mean, being in our early 30s, mid 30s, like, I guess the ego side has started to slow down, at least for myself. And I could see that change. Like, you go back and look at the stuff you used to post and stuff, and you're just like, wow, like we have grown up a lot. And I mean, that's part of it, you know, so it is what it is.
It's really, I was just going to say, it's really tough with the age thing, because you need the experience, I think, to be successful, but then you also need the enthusiasm. And, you know, you think back to your early 20s or mid 20s, you know, working all night on a truck didn't hurt as much as it does now, or it's going to in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I just, because I was in the military, I had kind of a later start. So when I like really hit the ground running in the industry, I was already mid 20s, you know, and that's why I see these guys in their younger 20s and stuff. And I'm just like, dang, like these guys will have, you know, another few, 3-4 good more years of their body before it really starts to tear on them. And I miss that energy, but you know, you just keep going, you know, soldiering on through it. And you got to dig deep. Like last week we had some issues with or I guess earlier this week, we had some issues with the UCC build. And it's like, you got to look at it like, you can quit now or just keep going forward. And we just decided to keep pushing on.
One of the reasons I really wanted to start with catching up with you about the shop is because, you know, the focus today is going to be the UCC truck. And I imagine, or what I really picked up on as being a challenge was, you've got all those trucks behind you, and you've got to get your truck ready for next week. And that added stress versus maybe being in a different environment where customers aren't calling and bugging you. Where's my truck? Where's my transfer case? Why isn't the engine back in? And then you're looking at something you're going to take out and compete with the most powerful trucks out there. So how's that been an added challenge, like right now? Like we're doing this on the weekend, and this was the best time for us to connect. So I know time's limited for you. Has that been a really big challenge with it this go round, is balancing the business and the build?
Yeah. I mean, you just basically what I've started to do is kind of set limits. I could work 100 hours a week here for David and I feel like I'd still fall behind. And David and I have that same mentality of this is what we love to do. Like, we don't want to make this where, I guess I'm trying to find the words for it, but basically, like, this is what we're so passionate about. Like, we're willing to, not take on as much work or whatever I would say UCC Prep for me, like, heavily started about probably 2 months ago. And, you just set limits. Like, I usually probably would do maybe 80 hours a week here, and I just dialed it back a little bit. And, David picked up some of the slack, and some of it is just we didn't take on as much work. So, you sacrifice for it. But, I mean, David's no stranger to it. I think he's already drag raced 3 times this year, and then he took my mega cab out sled pulling this year. So, and he's had to work on his own truck. His motor's currently out getting refreshed up at New Performance Auto. So, I mean, when you have 2 people what I love the most about like what David and I have going on is you have 2 people that come from very similar backgrounds with similar financial situations, with similar interests. Like, it's not like we both don't mind being poor to go do this. You know what I mean? We both don't mind being tired to go do this. And I think that's why we work really well together. Is we're just so similar minded on that. And I'll be honest, David deals with all the paperwork. He's the one that's got to meet with our tax person. He does all of the invoicing. He answers the phone a lot. Lately, we've been kind of a lot of people want to call and talk to me, and that's fine. But at the same time, like, David can usually answer it, and I'm far more effective turning wrenches back here. And, in a couple of years, we hope where David doesn't have to come out here and work anymore. We'll have another guy, and I won't ever have to answer the phone again, which would be ideal. It's not that I don't like talking to people, but I build engines or trannies. I'll leave here, come back at 10 o'clock at night, and I'll work uninterrupted. No one coming in, no one calling me. And it's the best times that I have personally, because I don't do well with distractions.
That's a really interesting point. Is that I've talked with a lot of the guys who founded huge companies in diesel, and they started it like everyone has to. They had to sell it, build it, install it. When they were out there on forums at that time or other sorts of media, that's who you knew as the face of the company. And then it gets to that point where you have to step back. Like, you just have to separate it so you can come up with a new product, something new with a build. Doing what you do, and customers or potential customers, they can get kind of demanding with time because that's who they know. But
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's to make them a better product. With the truck itself, walk me through the build, the truck that you're putting together for this year. So when we see it perform next week, we kind of have the inside story or kind of the backdrop on it.
Yeah, so it's a 2007 5.9 original truck. I bought this when I started my YouTube channel in November of 2020. And it currently now sits as it's got a 6.4 liter deck plate Cummins in it. Eric at No Limit did the sleeve install, and then we have his billet main caps and his cross-bolted girdle, which is a really nice piece. We have an industrial injection. I think it's their stage 2 race head on it. And then Wagler Extreme beam rods. That's their new design deck plate rods. Diamond pistons, total seal rings. It's got a No Limit cam and tappets in it. Manton push rods, OEM rockers. For the fuel side of stuff, we got Dynomite injectors. I think we have the 108 LPMs in there, so a little bit big. I mean, you could do percentage over, but you have Lenny on the podcast all the time. Like, he hates that term. So we got 108 LPMs in there. We have 2 Exergy 14 mil race pumps with a Fleece controller, Fleece kit. And then we have a fluid dampener with their max power kit, a stainless comp T6, 2 Turbo Smart wastegates. We have a Midwest. I use John Schrato from Black Tie Race Fab. He's the guy I buy all my Midwest turbos from. We have a ball bearing 480, and then we have a FI 1. It's a 110 on there. If you want, I can like pop the hood and show you as I explain. I don't want to mess up your podcast though.
People love to see it. That's why I tell everybody if they listen to us like on a podcast app, like jump onto YouTube too, because a lot of times you can actually see the whole setup with it.
So yeah, I mean, we just a lot of work, a lot of time, and then we have quite a bit of nitrous. We got 1 375 hanging out down there, 2 of them up there, and then we have 2 of the smaller 15300Ls. We have a lot of bean machine stuff. We have like the Fire Punk upper radiator kit, and then Bean Machine did this valve cover for us with like our company logo. We have 625 deck plate studs, electric water pump.
Got the holder down sticker.
Oh yeah. I got a rep. We got a 6-liter out back that's mine that I need to get to work on. And then I just wanted something a little different on this. Like, everyone runs like the factory 3rd gen, or if you have a race truck, you run this one and you flip it upside down. I just wanted to be a little bit extra, I guess. So I made this fit in a factory location. Obviously, the air conditioning is gone on this truck now. Very sad day when I had to let that go. But we did all the fab work in-house. That's something that I've really wanted to focus on. We have the Dynomite modified rail in here. And then we do dual feed the rail from Fleece. If you look, we got the fire suppression nozzles in there now. And then as far as inside the truck goes, it's probably a disaster. But we have a full interior minus the seats. I put my Kirky on the old power base there. We have a 850 cage from Fire Punk that fits incredible. My nitrous sits inside the truck on this one. Full manual valve body, max 5, and then this truck is still a factory ECM as well. And as far as suspension goes, we have like factory stuff up front with like a Dodge Offroad track bar, fresh Mopar steering, billet control arms from Full Hook Performance. And then in the back here, we have just your standard 2500 gooseneck towing capabilities of leaf springs. And then I have the Fire Punk kit with Viking shocks in the back to make those fit. So, I mean, probably not the most aggressive drag race setup by far, but I don't, it's not that I hate drag racing, but I like sled pulling with this truck a lot more. So I wanted to keep the setup that seems to be working really good for us on the pull track. So I left it leaf sprung for right now, at least.
What's the strategy for this competition? And before you answer, my perspective of it, I haven't been to UCC. I've done a ton of podcasts and episodes about them with people who are competing. And I don't really have, if I was going to do something like that, I wouldn't really know how to start. So I'm trying to understand, how could I be competitive in all three? Because they're so vastly different, like a sled pulling truck versus drag racing versus something that's going to go on the dyno, make a ton of power. How do you put together a strategy to be successful at a competition like this?
You bring a lot of spares. That's really what it boils down to. I mean, you get, in my opinion, I've always felt like UCC favored more of a drag truck. And that's fine. Like that's how the points stack up, and that's okay. Like, it is what it is. But usually guys that have a lot of success have a drag race truck. And I would say it's much easier in my opinion, to make a drag race truck hook to a sled and go 250 feet than it is to take a truck that can pull a sled 300 feet prospectively and make that truck go like low fives. Because it's a lot different. You know, drag racing, you get tube chassis stuff and everything's really, really light. And on sled pulling stuff, like a lot of guys are still running like an OEM frame rail, and then they're just welding metal everywhere they can. You know what I mean? You're trying to make that thing super rigid. So the way I go into UCC every year is, I mean, everyone knows I'm slow. So there's no really, you set the bar real low on the track race portion of it. And then from there, like the dyno, that's easy transition for us, even with a sled pull truck, because I usually run this truck in like open or run what you run or hot street diesel. So for us, it's real easy. This truck goes to like sled pull mode from the way you see it now. It takes about 2 hours by myself. I'm hoping with my team at UCC, we could do it in about an hour. And I feel like at UCC, like a lot of guys, from what I've seen, sled pulling, they like over engineer it. Like these trucks are designed to pull a certain way. So when you have factory frames and stuff, like those things are pretty rigid if you know like where to chalk them up at and stuff like that. So we're hoping, my goal for UCC this year was to go like some kind of a 580, 590. The truck still weighs 6,475 pounds. So it's not a light truck at all. And then the dyno, I can tell you I'm working on the spare motor when we get done here. So if this motor lets go on the dyno, it is what it is. But I'm hoping for, 2,500 plus horsepower. With them getting rid of the torque now, it kind of changes how you attack it. I feel like before, UCC really rewarded the guys that were willing to start it down at the basement and make that, 3,500 foot-pound plus torque number. Now you don't have to do that. So I feel like you'll have guys that are still going to do it anyway. And then you'll have guys, hopefully like myself, that'll start it a little bit higher and just make it up top. But the dyno is definitely the decision maker at UCC. It always has been. I think it always will be, because that's when you'll get guys that make 1,800 horsepower that drag race really well. And then you'll have the guys that, like I think about like Chris Patterson, Derek Rose, Ziegler. You're talking about trucks that, a couple of those went fours, right? And then Chris went, I think, like 540s. And then they still make 26, 27, 28. Ziegler made 3,300 horsepower. Like that's when that gap it's huge, and it's crazy to me to like, when you look at the point scoring, you're just like, that gap there, it's hard to beat. So again, I mean, it's anybody's game, like a couple engine failures or a couple trans problems or any kind of parts failure, like it can really shake it up. But a lot of these trucks, you get to test long before we do. And all of us, I feel like, watch each other. They might not admit it, but I know I watch every other truck that's competing, and you're just like, all right, where are they at? How fast did they go? And sometimes they won't post the times, but you have ways around that, and you figure out what they were running, and it's good to see people. I feel like this UCC, there's been a lot more testing that has been public than in years past that I've been involved with. Like this year, for my truck specifically, we've gone to the drag strip, and we actually had decent success. And we went to Fire Punk's dyno 2 days ago on Thursday, and I learned a ton, and the truck's doing what I want it to do. So I actually feel pretty comfortable. Like it's the weekend, or 4 days before we leave, and all I have to do is build a spare motor and install a window net. Like that's it. So I feel comfortable. I'm not going to say ready, because I don't think you're ever ready, but we got you just got to bring a lot of spare parts to an event like this. Like I know for myself, we got the full built truck, then we have another sleeve 6.4 spare motor. We have 4 different turbo setups that we could run. that are all independent of each other, like piping and everything. We have 3 built trannies, 2 transfer cases, couple axles, ECMs, harnesses, Max 5s. Like I've been to events where you've had to pivot, and if you don't have the parts, like it almost kills it. So that's the nice part about UCC. They don't penalize you for swapping stuff like other competitions. So realistically, whatever you're willing to do before the next event is okay. So it changes your strategy. A lot more people can swing for the fences on the dyno because they know they could swap the motor, that night, versus other events where you get deductions on swapping the motor, and you got to be a lot smarter about how you attack certain things. So
yeah, I think that it really appeals, I think, to the spectator, because when they either buy tickets and go, or they're watching it, on a live stream or something like that, they want to see a performance. And I think what you mentioned is really key there, because I've seen some, not UCCs, but other events in the past where that the truck's holding back because they need to make it last. And you're like, oh man, I came because I wanted to see the dyno number he made, or I wanted to see the quarter mile time or 8th mile time. So I think that really adds to the excitement that the enthusiasts and spectators are wanting to see.
Oh yeah. And I mean, we don't, I don't want to say we're going to hold the truck back on drag race day, but there gets to be a point where, 580s and something this heavy, like safety wise, stopping wise, rollover wise, my driver experience wise, like you got to kind of know your limit. And the dyno, like what we're fixing to load into it, it was like Loewen and I were talking about Thursday, like it's either going to work or there's going to be pieces everywhere. And I know I'm not the only person that has that mentality. I know like Greg had some misfortune last week too. And like, there's a lot of guys. I know Chris has a huge thorn in his side that he wants to unleash to the world as well. And then you got the Coffee family, Hunter Coffee's driving it. I know they're trying to go for 3,000. Like, you got a lot of people. The list definitely got a lot smaller as the event came up, but I feel like you're still going to have one heck of a show. And I can tell you that I definitely want to end that sled pull with everything I can. So, I mean, whether we have to put the spare motor in, we're going to turn it all the way up for the sled pull, and definitely all the way for the dyno. The only event I'd say we're going to try and be a little bit more cautious on is just the drag race portion.
There's a lot, so far through this chat, there's a lot of questions that I get from a variety of perspectives. Like sometimes people will ask, hey, I want to start a diesel shop, but I'm not sure what to look for in a business partner. And you answered that the way you guys are in line with your goals, the things that you guys want to do. Or they say, hey, I want to go build this truck and I want to race it, but I may not be able to be the quickest on the track or make the most, power with this, but how do I strategize and put it together? So there's a lot of knowledge that you've dropped, so far. And there's another one I wanted to touch on because I think it's really important, and we're kind of answering a bunch of questions that people have asked me all at once. I saw that you had posted that when you were at Firepunk, the tremendous amount of knowledge that you learned spending time with them. And I wanted to, you don't have to go into specifics of what you learned, but I really want the people out there listening that are interested in this to understand why it's so important to reach out to a company or someone who has done it before or someone who specializes in it and admit that you don't know everything and absorb the knowledge that they have. It doesn't have to be necessarily with a dyno. It could be with starting a business, could be with making it more successful. It could be with building a better team. It could be maybe not even pertaining to trucks. It could be running a construction company or a storefront or something like that. But going to somebody who's a specialist and successful in a particular industry or with a topic, and just absorbing as much as you can. What was that like, and how much did that help you?
I mean, it's if your attitude isn't right, like no matter what I tell people, it's never going to change their opinion. And that's like usually you try to feel people out right away. But like I think as you get older or whatever, or I guess to me, it's just like you invest so much time in something. It's not even the money. You can make more money every day. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, the time you never get back. the time that you sacrifice on this, and you just get to a point where you're like, you got to get help somewhere. And I don't think, I mean, maybe there's people that think less of me now that I went there. I mean, I don't really care either way, but you got to be willing to accept that stuff isn't always like, you can't do everything yourself. And I feel like that's a tough pill to swallow, especially for somebody like me, because I've been so hardcore DIY. But yeah, I messaged Levon. I said, hey, can we set up like a dyno appointment? And I set it up probably like a month and a half ago. They squeezed me in, and for that half hour that Levon was there, and I mean, just a big thank you to them. They were trying to get Hunter Coffee's truck ready to go drag race, and he still came over, and we just went over the Max 5. And Levon's like, well, what do you want to know? And I said, I want to know how to make the truck just like do that crazy smack. And I said, I want to learn how to set this up for drag racing. And once you just ask the questions, he was like, well, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And I didn't feel like they held anything back. I mean, obviously, this being a factory ECM truck, it's not the same as like the Bosches that they like to use. But he's like, this is how I would set it up with what you got going on. And the drag race setup, he pretty much laid out everything for me. He's like, this is how we do it. These are the jet sizes that we do it. These are the times that we do it. And like stuff like that, like it saves you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. Like I definitely appreciated everything, but nothing's free in this world either. Like we paid our bill when we were done at the end of it. Like, you know, and it was worth it. It was like one of those things. Like I came back and Dave's like, so what'd you learn? I was like, dude, like we got to rewire some stuff on this truck. And I said, we got to rewire some stuff on your truck. But I was like, it was worth way more money than they charged me to do that. And just like the environment there with Larson and stuff. And like, they're very helpful guys. And I feel like some people get certain impressions from people depending on how you meet them and stuff. But like anytime I've been at any ODSS events, especially since I moved out here, like they've helped me with drag race tuning, like ECM tuning and stuff. And I buy a lot of stuff from Firepunk now, especially just being so close to them. Like we have their cage kit, their shock kit, some of their billet parts. Like one of my favorite things I get from them is their engine lifting bracket. So, you know, and you get a lot of help from a lot of people. Like some of my best friends, like Meyer who still works at PDD. Like we pretty much buy all of our transmission parts through Power Driven through Meyer, you know, and that's like when I have a trans question, I don't feel bad about calling Meyer because I'm like, dude, like we buy, you know, XYZ from you guys. And I feel like a lot of people, that's the biggest thing for me is like, I want to support their business. So I buy parts from them. Sometimes I can find them cheaper, but that knowledge you can't get like when you buy it on, you know, eBay or whatever. And I think that's one thing that I've really learned over time. And I try to put into our business model. Like I will help people till the end of the earth. If you're willing to support our business, like I will give you everything you need. But if you're buying all this stuff from XYZ and then you need me to put it together, like I'm not as keen to help people. And with that attitude, like I've changed my habits. And that's why I feel like a lot of companies are willing to help us out. You know, get the truck set up. Ethan at WP Developments has been awesome with a lot of things. Just sometimes just keeping my head up. And yeah, I mean, what you learn at any company that's successful, as long as you're willing to absorb it, and I think you'll be fine. You know, and I meant what I said when I made that Facebook post. Like, I recommend anyone to go to the Firepunk Dyno, get yourself a dyno session and just learn. Like, it blew my mind. I wish I wasn't so tired when I was there. I feel like I might have been able to get more out of it, but what I was able to, it was awesome. And I think hopefully it's successful.
It's been one of the toughest lessons I've learned being an adult is I like to do things myself as well and everything. And then realizing through that process that, how many thousands of hours did Firepunk invest to learn what size jet, or how much did PDD learn with a transmission component, or any of the companies you mentioned. You can take those 10,000 hours and try to learn it yourself, or you can just have, I guess maybe the word is humility, and just saying, hey, I want to learn this, and then being appreciative and supporting it, which is really key. And I think relates back to what you said at the beginning with starting the shop, and maybe how things were priceless, and how you needed to, evaluate the price structure. Is it attracts the right type of customer, because ultimately, when we either buy a transmission, an engine, a tool, anything out there, we want to have support. We want to know that we're buying something that, has quality and attention to detail. And if it costs a little more, I would rather pay more than get the cheapest price, because rarely, I can't say never, but rarely is the cheapest the best thing you can get. Sometimes it is, but it's a tough lesson to learn.
It is. And, some people get a little irritated when I ask them that question. I'm like, so what of these parts did you buy from us? And some people kind of get it instantly. But I think, I would say, as an industry, whether you are a consumer or a shop, the buying on eBay, Amazon, or a wholesaler, that's great, but then you better know how to use it. You know what I mean? I buy, I'm trying to think of something I buy. I don't know. I buy some trans parts off eBay, a lot of core parts, whatever. I know how to use those. You know what I mean? And I don't have to call anybody to ask questions. But I think that's the one thing that and maybe this puts me on a totem pole or whatever. But I feel as an industry, that's the one thing that kills us now. And if you've noticed, I don't know how many online retailers you go to, but a lot of places have now started pulling performance parts off of their websites. I'm not sure why that is, but it has kind of changed the phone calls we get at the shop. Even people wanting to order, especially Dynomite injectors and stuff. It used to be, we'd get a call, we'd recommend a size, I'd never hear back from them. I'd see that person post on Facebook about how they got it from a bigger retailer. And now, that's not an option anymore. They got to kind of go through the smaller shops. So that's been something that's been, I guess, nicer now. Is a lot of us small shops will bend over backwards for you. I will kill myself to make sure that you're happy, so to speak. But it's hard to do that if you made no investment in my future, I guess, is the way I look at it. Prime example: we built a 6.7 motor, shipped it to Hawaii. And he's called me at 2 a.m. I mean, obviously I'm still awake, but I will answer. You know what I mean? If you buy a transmission from us, if I fab you up a turbo kit, if I build you an engine, even a short block, there is a expectation of my service that I give you. If you want to call me at 10 o'clock at night and I'm not doing anything crazy, I'll answer. Let's figure it out. Why is it doing this? Why is it doing that? And that saying of customers become friends before friends become customers, no matter how many times people say it, you never think that's true. It is 100% true.
There was a situation, you just reminded me of a story, and it was a long time ago, and somebody said, hey, I need a turbo for my truck. I said, all right, well, these are really good, call these places up. And a few months go by and they ordered something off eBay from somebody. Yep. And it didn't work quite right. And he's like, man, I can't get it to work right. Who should I contact? I'm like, call eBay. Ask eBay. That's part of what you're paying for. Is I can't help you.
Yeah, the service after sale is brutal, and when it's hard to put a value on my time on the phone, but at a certain point you just got to draw the line. And I mean, Ryan Milliken has a lot to offer, a lot of the time, but I think my biggest takeaway is firing customers. Sometimes you got to do it, and Ryan's very good at that. You've had him on your podcast a lot, and I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not nearly as I guess cutthroat as Ryan can be at times, but that kind of advice, it's important. And I think that's the cool part about our industry is you have all these guys throughout the spectrum of you know, you have Ryan, who's very just assertive, and then you have other companies that, you know, are a little bit more understanding and have a little more empathy, and you can kind of pick on that scale where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and for us, you know, we tend to be like, if you've bought stuff from us or brought your truck here, support our business. Like I will do some very crazy things to make sure that you are happy at the end. The guys that don't buy anything, like I can't say I lost anything I never had, you know?
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Lewis, I know you're busy, got that engine to put together. I appreciate you taking some time, to chat with me. And there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of insights you shared, not just about the truck, but about business and relationships and partnerships and stuff. So I appreciate you chatting with me. I look forward to seeing you perform next week and wish you the best of luck. And yeah, you're always welcome back on the podcast. Love our chats.
All right. Take care, Patrick. Thank you.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 23diesel20 for 20% off site-wide. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear. If you're looking for something for hunting, fishing, EDC, something to throw in a toolbox, have around the job site or around the house, they got something for any budget. And this year they've had a ton of new releases. The latest one is the Duralock models, which is a like an EDC smaller folding knife. It's got a blade that's made out of D2 steel. They've got a bunch of different blade shapes and then also handle materials designs as well. So if you're in the market for a quality folder, they've definitely got you covered there. And we appreciate them offering that discount code just for you guys. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, J. Cole John, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who follow on YouTube, podcast apps, social media, or on our Discord. We appreciate all your support over the years and look forward to bringing you more of the content you want to hear in 2023. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.